Welcome, everyone, to this episode of The Performance Edge. The Performance Edge is your masterclass in presence, authenticity, and authentic self expression, blending acting, psychology, and real world experience. Each episode explores what it takes to captivate, connect, and step beyond your comfort zone. It's not about eliminating fear, it's about using it to grow. On this episode, I'm very happy to welcome Kasia Bukowska, an artist, horsewoman, and transformational mentor who turned a wheelchair bound prognosis into a wild journey of healing, purpose, and connection. She helps people heal emotional wounds and release limiting beliefs using horse connection, mindset work, and symbolic art. And when I was scrolling through your social media, there you were on a horse with a painting in a meadow. Oh my gosh. Wow. Could you share a little, one of the things that struck me, preparing for this episode, Kasia, is the integration or intersection of so many incredible elements. Your health, horse, art. Could you talk a little bit, maybe to kick us off on, I know it's a lot, but how, all of these things. First of all, I guess maybe answer like what all converges for you?
So, first of all, thank you for having me on here. I'm very excited to share some value with your listeners, hopefully, give them some inspiration and some motivation. And I do have a lot of things going on in my life. But I truly believe that all of those things are pieces of the puzzle to help me put my purpose together. And it's been a very long and difficult journey. And it's finally gotten over this hump of being hard, of being enough pain. I feel like I've been through enough pain to finally be willing to do what it takes and to be completely open, 100 million, 1,000% surrender to just be like, what do I do now, universe? Maybe some people say God. I like to say universe personally. And the universe has just set up my challenges in such a way where when I look back on it, I see it as a gift. And a lot of people ask me like, how is being bedridden and in a wheelchair a gift? Um, but the thing is, that was my first step into connecting with horses on a different level and to find my true talent, which is art. I had always been interested in artwork, but only drawing with pencil, because I had severe OCD, and struggled with perfectionism. And so if I used paint, it felt too permanent and I would have a panic attack. And so that was not my thing at all. I wanted to apply to art school, but my whole family was telling me that if I love horses, that I won't even submit an application to Art Center in LA because that means I don't truly love horses and I'm not passionate about horses because artists make squat and I'm going to be on Skid Row in LA living under a cardboard box. So I was just like, okay, yeah, that's not my thing. So I tried a whole bunch of other things. I went to 3 different colleges, never finished anything, could never, I didn't find my thing. And maybe we'll go deeper into this in a little bit, but I ended up leaving, just like calling it quits in LA and leaving and moving to Poland to a completely the other side of the world because there was a horse for sale that I really loved. So I sold everything and I just left. And a lot of my family stopped speaking to me for a little bit because they were so upset with my spontaneous, I'm just done, go. And I just left for, which seems silly to some people, but I left for a horse to a country where I didn't speak the language. I didn't know anyone here, but I made that decision because I was like, school isn't working out for me. Art isn't working out for me. This horse, I am going to learn to ride this horse and we're going to compete and I'm going to do Grand Prix and I'm going to win Grand Prix and I'm going to win money and I'm going to train horses. And so I left. And about 2 years after moving to Poland, just side note, my dad ended up moving with me because I spoke zero Polish. I had no idea how to navigate here, so I'm very grateful that he came with me. Um, but yeah, I was competing. Things were going really great. We were moving up. I was like, yes, I got this. And within a week, I became a vegetable, complete vegetable, to where people had to feed me, brush my hair, brush my teeth. I couldn't sit up. I couldn't do anything. It was the most humiliating thing in my life that I had experienced.
All right, I'm going to pause you right there.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you're in LA, and this is great. I put us right in the middle of the story. I love this. So you're in LA. You decide. Let's just go back for a second. Did you have any relationship to horses before you decided to buy a horse and move to Poland? Were you riding horses before that,
Yes, I
or
was
was
riding.
it a lifelong thing?
Yes, I had some horses there. I actually had two horses at the time, which I ended up selling to my students, to help me put a deposit on the horse in Poland. I had gone to Poland a few times with my dad on vacation, um, almost against my will. I didn't want to go, but he promised me that I would ride horses every day. So I was just like, fine, I guess. And so I went and I fell in love with a yearling, a baby horsey. And they had like 30 horses on this property. And they're like, any horse is for sale. Like, if you want to buy it. I was like, no, I want this one. He's like, that is the only one that's not for sale. And I was like, no, but this one. And he said no. And so for 6 years, I would come and just, sometimes he wasn't at this barn because he was gone training. I would come and I'd just sit there and I'd love to spend the summer just looking at him because I was just so in awe. I didn't know what it was about this horse, but I knew I wanted him. So when I got the call in LA, like 6 years later, hey, are you still interested in that horse? Then I was like, sell everything, sell the car, sell my kidney, sell the passport, like just sell everything, gotta go. And yeah, but I did have experience there, but I didn't want to bring him back to LA because LA is expensive and I had a really hard time staying afloat, to the point where I was homeless for a little period of time, just for a short period of time, but I did experience the homelessness that my family told me I would, being an artist. So I knew
Hmm.
that I wouldn't be able to afford him in LA. So I thought,
Got it. So okay, so you after 6 years of a no relationship, you now have the opportunity to buy this horse. What's the horse's name?
his name in Polish is Sławny, which means
Oh.
famous, but I like to call him Pony. And so whenever I go to
Hmm.
the paddocks, I just say Pony. And for me, he's like my little baby pony. I don't know. He's just my everything. He's like my child.
Now you get to Poland, and how long were you there before things fell apart for you physically?
I'm just over 2 years.
Okay, so 2 years in 2 years there, you have Pony. Hey,
Yeah.
you're starting to live your life,
And my
starting to build a life.
dream at that time, my dream was to be able to compete in Grand Prix, and I started showing in the meter 20s, which is jumping 1 meter and 20 centimeters. But at home, we were jumping a meter 30 to a meter 45. So we were really starting to move up in our jumping. And we really clicked and we really synced.
Okay, so then there you are having to be fed. What happened?
At that time, I had no idea. And also, doctors had no idea. I was transferred to multiple hospitals in Poland. I was in 3 hospitals, um, total of like 3 months in the hospital. And they were just giving me lots of steroids, lots of different meds. And they basically sent me home when I was still hobbling because they said, we don't know what it is. It's an unclassified case of rheumatoid arthritis. And I was like, well, is it gonna like come back? Am I gonna be in a wheelchair again? Am I gonna be like, they're like, we don't know. And so I just felt so frustrated and I was managing it for a period of time, but it was getting worse. I went to go see over 20 doctors privately and none of them could diagnose me. And even one of them tried to get my father to crush antipsychotics and sprinkle it in my food because she said I'm crazy. So that was the kind of care that I got. People didn't take me seriously. I think also because of the amount of steroids they had me on, I wasn't swollen anymore. And so I looked fine. So everyone just thought, oh, this drama queen needs some attention. And I ended up going back to LA, and at USC in my first visit, they diagnosed me with fibromyalgia and with lupus.
Okay, what okay, so I don't know either of those ailments. Could you maybe just give us a brief, um, what are those for the audience that might not know either?
They're both autoimmune diseases. Textbook wise, they're not curable, but I'm on a mission to prove that you can cure yourself of these two ailments just with the mind. So I used to be on over 20 pills a day, and I'm currently on 2 pills a day, and one day I only take one. So I'm working with my doctor now to come off of it, and I'm really excited because I used to be on leukemia drugs, malaria drugs, and steroids, painkillers, and I don't need any of that now.
Could you share what it might have been like for you to finally get some clarity in what was going on with you when you did visit US? What was that like?
Literally remember sitting in the chair and the doctor coming back in with the results and him sitting down and having this like really long face. And he told me, and I was just like, yeah, like I was so excited. It was like winning the lotto. And he did not smile back. He did not sit up. He was kind of like hunched and he was just like looking at me like I was psycho because I had never heard of lupus or fibromyalgia. What is that? But I have a diagnosis, so just give me the meds and we're done. Okay. And he told me about how serious it was, but I was in denial at the time. And I was just like, no, like, that's not me. I'm going to be fine. And when I went home and I started like doing some research and going down the rabbit hole, um, I didn't even finish reading some of the articles before I went into a panic attack. And, and then I didn't want to live.
Mm,
It was just a lot of pain and a burden. And I didn't want to burden my loved ones around me for what was ahead of me, according to these articles. Um,
mm.
but my strong emotions, I started noticing that when I got really upset, really sad, really depressed, really angry, and even later on when I started getting happy, even when I got super excited about something, I noticed my body reacting and I would have a hard time walking. And so coming home and reading all of these things put me into another vegetative state, basically, where my mom was taking care of me. But the thing is, with all those steroids, I didn't look like I was, like anything was wrong. So she had a hard time believing as well, like that I was really in as much pain as I was saying. And at that time, I asked her, like, I was going insane in the membrane, like, just in bed, like, not looking at the ceiling.
I was just listening to Cypress Hill during a workout like literally like an hour ago. So that this is definitely I believe in the universe as well. Whenever I refer to a higher power, I refer to the universe, and she's a she actually. I do gender, and she for me is the universe. So I completely love that you just dropped that reference. So I mean, all right. So I mean, so here
Synchronicities.
you so here you are, you go through all of this, you get diagnosed, you start to learn what the road ahead looks like. You're like, you know what? God, man, I've been through enough already. I'm about ready to check out. What and to look at your social media now and to look at all that you do and to look at like the creativity and the beauty you put out into the world, one would never know these things. So I'm sensing there's some sort of connection here to horses or to healing, or could you bring us to the place where maybe you started to heal or something was revealed, or was it a long process? What was that like?
It wasn't a long process. It was kind of like an aha moment. Because I was in bed. I had a boyfriend at the time. He is now my husband, which is a separate crazy story in itself because he didn't speak English and I didn't speak Polish. And we had been dating for 3 months and I became a vegetable. But anyways, I was telling him on the phone, like, if I can't, see my horse or even touch my horse because my joints were like, and my tendons were going like backwards like this. So the doctor said that if I pet a horse and the horse turned its head, I could literally snap my tendons in my hand. So like I can't even touch
Wow.
a horse. And I was like, I don't even want to live. And he was really supportive and he said, "Oh, it's okay. Like, it doesn't matter. We're going to have horses. I'm going to wheel you out in a wheelchair." And then I thought, I'm going to go on Google. And with my stiff fingers, I'm like in Google, how to train a horse from a wheelchair. And people do it. And I saw other people who are
I was going to ask, like, what came up? Like, did anything come up?
there were stories, there were people, there were so many articles, and I became inspired and I thought like, "Oh my gosh, well, if these people can do it, why can't I do it?" And like they're worse off than me and they're writing, so like I really don't have it that bad comparing to them. So I got really excited and so I wanted to start exercising. But, like, how can I exercise and I'm, like, in bed, right? But my doctor said that it was important for me to, like, open and close my hands because otherwise it was just, like, my tendons were shrinking and shrinking and shrinking, but it was so painful. So, I asked my mom for a pencil and paper and, like, a board so I could try to, like, practice opening and closing my fingers and holding something to
Hmm.
eventually draw. And to my mom, who's not an artist, she went to the store to get some paper and pencils and eraser, right? I just said art stuff. And she comes back with paint and a canvas. And I'm like, no, why would you do this to me? Like, this is
So now here you are in permanence, right? Back to what you were talking about earlier. So now there is no eraser. It's not a graphite pencil. It's paint. And once it's there, it's there. So what was that like for you?
I didn't want to touch it. But then things get really boring, just laying in bed and how much Netflix can you really watch? And so I decided to just start doing whatever. And that's kind of like what I call it when I go into my art studio now. Is like I just go and I do whatever that comes out. And so I painted something, and I remember this first painting, and it was small and it was blue and it was really sad. It was like dark blue, a lot of black. The horse looked like in a lot of pain, and there were drips on the artwork. And it was like as I was doing the drips, I remember crying because it was so painful for me physically to like to paint, but then also like I hadn't seen my horse for over 3 months, and so that was painful to not be able to go and do things, to drive, to run errands, to work. Like I started missing all of those things that I took for granted, and those things that I thought were like, "Oh, I have to do this." And I was just like, "I if I get to drive a car again, I will be so grateful." And so, like, I posted this piece, like, of getting emotional because it was so difficult for me at that time. And I posted this on Facebook, and someone asked how much for the painting. And I was just like, I could be a vegetable and make money and save up for my dream horse so I can make sure I have a Shire horse before I kick the bucket. Because who knows how long I'm going to live, but I am going to have that freaking Shire imported from the United Kingdom. And she is going to be mine on paper. And I cannot be hospitalized or die before that point. And like, I made a commitment to myself. And I was just like, this is it. I'm going to paint my heart out.
So that clicked for you.
Yeah.
So take us to maybe the point where you are today. What does the day-to-day look like now? You seem to be surrounded by horses. You're painting, you're on TikTok, you're on Instagram, you have art that you're selling. What does life look like now? So jumping ahead to how things are now, we've got a really great idea of like this path of you literally living on the edge. And I have to say, Kasia, only those who have had health issues can really understand that when your health is messed up, everything else stops.
Hmm. Yeah.
And it's not like, I may have lost some money or this happened or relationship or anything like that. It's when our health is we have a severe health problem, it feels like everything stops. So before we jump to today, do you agree with that sentiment? Like for you, like what was that like having to deal with a health problem for such a long period of time?
Um, in my opinion, it maybe wasn't even like that long of a time because I feel like I truly made a quantum leap and quantum jump because horses were my passion. I was just like, no, other people did it and I'm not taking no for an answer and this is final. And that mindset shift really helped me. But yes,
I
you're
have
right about the health being so difficult. Like, I remember being homeless, not having money. I remember struggling with depression, with anxiety, with drug addiction, with being suicidal. And that was nothing really compared to being in bed, not being able to move, and the emotional pain of not just what I'm going through, not the physical pain either, but also the people around me and what they have to do. They have to bend over backwards, change their lives for me. And I felt so guilty, and I felt like I was putting them in such an awful position. Whereas when it was other things, it didn't really include other people. It was just more all about me and what I was doing. And in this case with health, family wants to help, and that made me feel really guilty.
What did you do to deal with that guilt?
I just put my focus on the one thing that lit me up, which was selling my art to make money and just focusing on getting better so that they didn't have to take care of me, so that they didn't have to pay for my hospital bill, so that they didn't have to pay for my medications, that I could do it on my own. I didn't want to be a burden and I wanted to be independent, which is crazy because when I was healthy, like I was trying and I was working up to 80 hours a week at different jobs, and I was just like, it's never working out for me. It's so hard. And then it was like when I was learning to walk again, basically, I was just like, I got this. Like it was so like, wow, I can walk. I get to walk. I get like it was just a totally different mindset. It was not, oh, this is bad, this isn't enough. It was just like, this is plenty. I sold one painting, like I am good to go. I sold a painting. I think my first painting was something like $55 or something, but I was like, I did it. Like someone paid for my art.
Right. I think it's easy to overlook things like that. That at the end of the day, you created something, you brought something into existence that did not exist before, and someone was moved enough by that to give you actual money for it. That's a really, really big deal. Like I know we say, oh, it was only $55, but like that still is a really, really big deal, in my opinion. Like
It
to
is.
have
You're
conceived
totally
something.
right. At the time, like it was exciting because it was like a milestone for me. And you always have to start somewhere. Like I started with like, I'm gonna hold, like, I'm gonna hold it. Like that was my starting point. And then when I sold it for $55, great. And then I got more experience, I got more confidence. And then that's when I started upping my prices. And it was just really so transformational on every aspect of this whole journey of getting healthy, because I didn't need to work for anyone else. I could be my own boss and I could paint when I want and I could set my own schedule. And that was really empowering because I really struggled at jobs. Like having this, I have to do something for someone. Like when it's for me and my animals, and I know that my output will then get me the input to provide for my animals, there's so much motivation, and I can go 16 hours and still have energy and be happy. Like I'll have a smile on my face. But if I had to do that for someone else building their business and their passion, it's very draining for me. And
I'm I'm the same way. Yeah, and I think we're very lucky in that I work like 7 days a week, but I'm happy to.
Mhm.
It's not, I'm very grateful because I have a life that I don't need to escape anymore, and I have work that gives me energy. And really, I have the opposite problem of like, okay, I got to take some downtime here, otherwise I'll just keep going and going and going. So your day to day now, looking from the outside in, looks pretty darn magical. Could you just give the audience a snapshot of what your day to day is like? I mean, do you have more than one horse? I know you've got 7 cats now. That's pretty cool. Um,
I actually have 9 because, like, 7 inside, and then I have 2 barn cats. They are responsible for controlling the mouse population in the barn. So they have jobs. Yeah, but I have 6 horses in my backyard. In the past, my biggest goal when I was living in LA is to have a sports horse and a draft horse. And I thought maybe I can't even afford a
what's
Shire horse.
Okay, so just for, because I have no idea. Shire, um, sport, and then what was the other
Okay,
one?
draft horse. So draft
Okay,
horse is
okay. What are the differences between these? Because I thought horses were like, I just thought some were faster than others.
so a sports horse is encompasses a lot of different breeds that are able to participate in sports like racing, jumping, dressage, maybe barrel racing, all different kinds of disciplines in relation to horses. And then draft horses are more of those, like, the Budweiser horses. They're more like chunky and they pull.
Clydesdales,
Yeah,
like the Clydesdale.
exactly. So
Yeah.
draft horses is kind of like an umbrella for those kinds of chunky monkey horses. So the Clydesdales, Shires are really similar to Clydesdales. There's Percherons, there's Belgians, there's a whole bunch of them. And so Shires are dying out. And I don't know how many there are now, but a few years ago it was something like 1,800 Shires left on the entire planet. So now I don't know how
Wow.
it is, but I didn't know if I'd ever be able to afford a purebred Shire who's registered and everything. So I just thought, like, my dream when I was in LA is to have a sports horse and a draft horse, like one of those sporty ones and a heavy one. And I was so limited in my thinking, but luckily being bedridden opened me up to limitless believing in myself, because now I have 6 horses and I'd love to expand my barn. I have my eye on
Literally.
two more horses, but we'll see.
Now, will you need more cats if you get more horses, or are you going to stick to 9?
Stick with 9 for now. My husband might pack his bags and leave, so need to compromise.
uh, yeah, I took us on a tangent, but I would love to hear, so how do you spend your time these days? What do your days look like?
So not really great with routine, but I try to do a few regular things every day and then tentatively plan my day. And I love to be in flow and I love to go with the flow. So that might not be like the ideal for some people, but I feel like when I work in this way, I am so happy when I paint, when I teach people with horses and help them on their journey, working with their inner child, seeing what the horse is reflecting in the arena. And so, yes, I have scheduled times with my students, and that's kind of like the day to day that stays scheduled. And then during the week, I have, like, for example, I will read a minimum of 2 hours a week. Sometimes it can be 15 hours, but there's a minimum of 2 hours a week. And there's self care, which is a minimum of like 2 baths a week. Because when I get in this flow and my ADHD, I just go, go, go. Oh, let's do research. Oh, let's do this. Let's paint. Oh, how about let's paint outside with the horses? Let's take all of my stuff now into the field, which takes 3 hours. And then I start painting. And after an hour, I'm like, I'm done. So it's kind of, I feel very grateful that I have this freedom. So I might not be a millionaire yet, but I do feel extremely wealthy because, like, last week I was just like, "Hey," to a friend, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Nothing." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'll come." And like I flew across Poland to my friend just, cuz I could, and other people
I
can't
was going to
do
say,
that.
because you could.
Just like, "Oh, yeah, I'm just going to go tomorrow."
So when you say your horse is your mirror, I think I would be a great time to shift into horse specific,
Yeah.
horse speak, as one would say. What does that mean, that your horse is your mirror? Could you share where that came from? What is that idea all about?
Yes. Where do I even start? So actually, my artwork helped me decipher what my horses were communicating to me, because I started this process of going and working with my horses, and then I felt stuff and I couldn't put words to it. And so I'd go and I'd paint. I kind of just turn off my brain and just go with the flow and do whatever. And then I would see the next day, sometimes even like weeks later, because depending on how I felt about the painting, I might not have liked it. So I didn't want to look at it for a few weeks until I felt ready to face it. And then I just sit there and like analyze, like, why did I use that color? Why did I use thick brush strokes and not like thin, wispy ones? Like I have a certain style and color scheme of my artwork, which is also really interesting to compare it in my early days of my lupus when I was just getting better, and now when I feel really free and limitless and how much color and explosion there is. But I analyze, like, what does that even mean? Why is the mane going like this? Why is it flowing this way? Why is it not flowing this way? And I analyze it and I think, wow, okay, it's teaching me XYZ. That's what my horse was pulling out of me. So now when I work with my horses or I work with clients, then the horses bring up feelings because maybe they listen or maybe they don't listen. And they are mirroring something that's going on within this person in their body. And let's say a person wants the horse to come to them because they want to put a halter on, for example, to catch the horse. And this person starts walking to the horse, and the horse walks away from them. And so this can be a mirror of how they're doing things and how they're showing up in their own life. And for example, if this person feels frustration building up, that, oh my gosh, why isn't this horse listening to me? Then we will dive a bit deeper into where is that frustration actually coming from. The horse, for me, is reading the feelings and what's going on in your subconscious and trying to pull those lessons out and show them in your face so that you can face that. And so there was, if I could tell about this one client, this was a person who had zero experience with horses. It was hilarious. We both laughed for about 5 minutes because it was absolutely incredible what this horse did. Um, so the horse was in the paddock. I had already prepared him, put him there. We were talking for like 30 minutes, and then his what he was supposed to do is go up to the horse and pet the horse. And it was so interesting that he went up to the horse. The horse looked at him and then turned around, took 2 steps, did the biggest fart, and took a big dump and walked away.
Oh my God.
And he was like in shock. I was also in shock. I'd never
I
seen
would be
anything
horrified.
like that before. And it was just really symbolic. First he laughed. He's like, "Is this normal?" I was like, "It symbolizes something. Let's get some scuba gear and like deep dive into what this means for you, because this is a metaphor of what's going on in your life. Maybe the way you're treating yourself, the way you see yourself when you look in the mirror, that you don't want to see yourself, that you feel like crap, that you feel you are crap and worthless, or maybe it's how other people in your life are treating you right now. And what are you going to do about the situation? Are you going to stand there and be, oh, he pooped and we're not, that sucks? Or are you going to complete the assignment and go get the horse? So, how you show up in the arena, in the paddock with the horse, is how you show up everywhere in life. And so, we can take those lessons that we learn from the horse and apply it to our lives. And for me personally, when I was really struggling with depression and struggling with understanding my feelings, it was much easier for me to talk to my psychologist about what happened with my horses. So if she's like, "How are you feeling?" I'm like, that's overwhelming. Why would you even ask me that? Let me tell you about my horse yesterday." And so she would help also guide me through the feelings that way. Because when I saw it as the horse, then it wasn't me anymore. And my ego wasn't so much attached to it. And it was like, the horse did this. But then later on, when I understand, why did the horse do this? What could that mean? How was the horse feeling? How could I help the horse feel better? And then twist and flip the script and be like, the horse is you. And then it's like, oh, I just talked about all of those uncomfortable emotions because I thought it was about someone else. I thought it was about the horse, but it's actually about you.
So I have a firm belief that whatever you put out into the world will be reflected back to you,
Hmm.
whether you know it or not, et cetera. But in a way, and sometimes I feel like with us human beings, it's in a roundabout way. It takes some time. What I'm hearing from you is in this situation, in the presence of horses, that reflection back is somewhat instantaneous
Yes.
and less filtered.
Yes.
Wow.
One of my biggest aha moments was when I was riding my Shire bareback and bridleless. It was in the morning, just hopped on it. I was just like, oh, this is so much fun. And I wanted to just have like a loosey goosey, lazy Sunday, like kind of just go do whatever. And I gently clenched one muscle, which was my signal to start turning. And she did this tiny little circle. Now, for a big, heavy horse, like doing a little circle is hard, especially when we're not warmed up. And I started laughing and I was just like, why is she offering me this? And then I was like, okay, I'll clench less, I'll ask less. And I did the same thing. And she did it again, like this little tiny 10-meter circle. And I was just like, I stopped. I started laughing and I literally said out loud, Roxy, you don't have to try so hard. And that was like mind blowing. I might cry. But I was just like, I could not say that to myself because I'm always like, go, 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 do more. Yeah. So that was like an aha moment that will stick with me for the rest of my life. And I'm absolutely grateful to this horse for showing me that.
Kasha, of all the animals under the sun, what is it about horses in particular for you?
Huh. They seem so spiritual and in tune. I feel like because of my childhood, I was always really tall. Most of the people at my school were short, and I always
How tall are you to set some perspective?
um,
If you don't mind me
five
asking.
nine. I'm 5'9", but at my
Okay, yeah,
school,
yeah, 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 sure,
I
sure.
was
Yep.
really tall for my age, and I always felt like a giant. And so when I met horses, I felt like they were big and huge and majestic, and I finally felt small. I think that's what attracted me to them.
Can I ask you,
Yeah.
can I interject? Did you feel small or did you feel safe or both?
Both, which is interesting because horses can be dangerous. Um, but I didn't feel that at all. And I've had
That's it.
accidents happen, especially when you start taking lessons and competing and stuff. But it was just, I don't know. It was just like it did not phase me at all. I still felt safe. I had an awful accident, but I just like, is my horse okay? Okay, let's go back to it. I just felt safe. I feel like
What
they're
Well, yeah. So was it the sheer size? Because I mean, I have been around horses, and when you are, you realize how big and strong they are. It's one of the things that I pick up on right away. I'm like, wow, this is an incredibly powerful creature. It's like the first thing I noticed about horses. And there's a little edge scare to that for me. Like, wow, they really, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna be, win a fight with this guy, like, or gal. Like they're very powerful. So was it the size? Was it the energy? Was it a combination of things? Have you ever thought about maybe in particular what it was that made you feel also like that safety?
I felt like it didn't matter what mistakes I made and that I was enough. That even if I, got left behind over a jump and I sat on their back and it was an ouchie for them, that it was like they're so easy to forgive. And I felt like and I feel like they feel my intention and they feel how sorry I am and they move past it and they're back to connecting again. I just felt like they understood and that it didn't matter if I got an A plus or if I gained weight or if I was the tallest person or if I made this mistake or I got last place. Like it really didn't matter. And I felt seen and heard. And it was different. Like when a horse looked at me, I didn't feel like I had to put on any masks or pretend or like be someone else, or I have to dress this way because it's too much if I wear bright colors and it's going to make other people uncomfortable. And it's like it was all of these thoughts running, and it was so tiring. And with horses, it was like I didn't have to think of how other people are going to feel. And it was finally like this moment of having no thoughts, just being in the moment and being present, which was not possible for me in any other place other than next to a horse.
Wow. One of the things I got asked on someone else's podcast, I think it might have been yesterday, is how to drop the act. I have I'm writing a book called Drop the Act. And it's really just the difference between being performative and participating, or being performative and being real. And what you're reminding me of is one of the ways to do that is to find a place or space or people that offer what the horses are offering for you. And I'm realizing now that they don't even have to be people, because what I'm hearing from you, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that until you made this connection with with horses, it sounds like you weren't really able to show up fully as your truest self, for good, bad, or indifferent. Is that,
1
does,
million
is that
percent true. I was acting my entire life until lupus, until being bedridden, because shortly going back to that, I didn't have strength to do anything with my horse. So I literally sat and I waited because I didn't have the strength to go to the field to get my one horse. So I just observe. I just observe. And that's when I started learning about there's so many signals that horses give us. There's so much going on. There's so much emotion that I was blind to. There's this whole other world. And I would have never sat there for hours observing had it not been for lupus.
so? Let me ask you this. So signals, I'd love to hone in on signals for folks that don't have access to horses, for whatever reason. It really sounds like there's a philosophy here. There is a way of being. There is a practice. What are some of the lessons that you have taken as someone that has gotten to spend a lot of time around these beautiful creatures? What can someone who has not, or does not, or may never be able to have access to horses? What are some of those lessons that we can take into our daily lives that you have gleaned from these relationships?
Something that's coming up for me right now that has been like the main message that's been coming up in all of my client sessions recently, and now looking back at it, it also helped me, is that yes, you can use a lot of force and pressure and use fear to motivate, but that just causes a lot of angst, anxiety, panic attacks. There's a lot of resistance when you try to get other people to cooperate with you, even just with the universe, trying too much, too hard, and being angry, all of this negativity festering in your body and making you sick. I feel like it's exactly the same way with horses. For example, today, this person wanted to lead a horse over a cavaletti, which is like a little jump, maybe like 2 feet or something like that. And so they're just leading the horse over, not a big deal. But that was the task. And they're like, I have to do this. I have to, the horse has to do this. And they start pulling. And when you start pulling and forcing and focusing, oh my gosh, you need to walk over it right now. Then the horse she planted her feet. It was just like, and she literally, the person was pulling this way and she literally went, she's a
Yeah,
shire. She's really big. She must weigh
yeah.
literally a ton. So there's no way.
You're not going to win that. You're not going to win that battle there
No.
at all. I don't. Yeah.
And they tried this way and that way. And so I made a suggestion to just walk over the cavaletti, crouch down, release the line and give the horse some space and just take a breath and imagine the horse walking over without you pulling and forcing, and just breathe. There's no time limit. And it was like right when this person didn't even finish releasing the breath, like, and the horse was already walking over it. And it was
See
an
now,
aha moment, like, wow.
like one of the many things I love about this medium is coming to original thoughts, or fresh thoughts, and I mean not original thoughts, or a fresh thought or a fresh idea, and what and our whole conversation, I feel like I just realized that, especially in out working in the world, working with horses, now that you don't have the option to force, because this creature can literally crush you, right? You could try to use force, but it just doesn't work. So when you go ahead.
There is a way to use force and not have any
Totally.
ropes. And this, for me, is really relatable to women who are in abusive relationships, that they are so scared to do something that they just okay, I'll do it whatever you say. And it's the same for horses, that you become more scary for the horse than not doing whatever the thing is. So for example, getting a horse in a trailer, a lot of horses don't like that for many reasons.
I wouldn't like it either.
And some trainers have this tactic of, using a whip and yelling and scaring and using plastic bags to scare the horse, to make the scary thing less scary than the person. And so in this sense, they can start almost having this robot horse, a push button horse that does everything. But when I see a horse like this, yes, they do listen and they do everything, and you can ride with nothing and the horse does it. But I see like the eyes glossed over, like there's no spirit, because the horse has no say, no opinion. And this would be called learned helplessness. It's like the horse is in a jail of their own body because they're too scared to show who they are. And I feel like that's how most of my life was. I was just doing the motions and trying to go to school because everyone does it. And I'm supposed to, and it was just, and it's so sad for me to see horses like this. And something comes to mind at a horse show I went to go watch. And they had lights and everything. It was like a ceremony, first place, second place. And all of the horses were going nuts. Like one was bucking, one was rearing, one took off. And there was one horse in the middle who just stood there. Like I heard people around me talking. They're like, wow, look at that horse. That horse is so good. Like, wow, wish my horse would. And I was thinking, I am so happy that my horses aren't like that, because all of the other horses were actually able to express themselves. But this horse was so scared that this horse literally went into shutdown. I saw signals in the body to recognize that the horse is in shutdown, not that the horse is calm and doesn't care about this, but the horse literally, like, there's a button and it's like done, off, and the horse was not there spiritually.
I think, and I so appreciate you making that distinction, Kasia, because I think it's why it's deadly, because you'll have people go, well, see here, I did get a result. I forced it. See, action, result, A, B, not realizing there's a whole other world to be had that is brighter and better and more beautiful and freer if you let go of control. One of my big things is that human beings, we have essentially three modes. We can take action, we can let go, or we can do both of those things at the same time. And that's where I think performing artists live. Like we're taking action, but letting go of how it comes to pass. And in your relation, in like as you're laying out this relationship, there is this dance that I'm seeing you with a horse. If both of you are going to be fully actualized in this relationship, in this ride, in this journey, it cannot be by means of force. It has to be by means of coaxing and connecting and listening and responding to signals and being attuned to signals. Is that an accurate picture?
Yes, I'd also like to add that I do compromise with my horses. So there are times where I will use a little bit of pressure. I mainly use positive reinforcement, so reward-based training. But there are times where I will use some pressure and, in a way, ask my horse for something that's outside their comfort zone. I will watch for their cues, their signals, and their emotions of much they are tolerating this. If it gets to a point of them being too stressed, like I can, each of my horses is different, and I can see that in them, then I change it. I'm like, okay, I know this was too hard for you. Let's do something else.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you. So what I'm hearing is you have a knack for bringing your horses to the edge of their comfort zone.
Yes, I do,
Right.
because I feel like there's a lot of growth to be had there, especially in trusting me. So when I build trust first without pushing them towards something uncomfortable, to help build their confidence in themselves, number one, but also their confidence in me and my decisions. They're two separate things, and we work on those first. And then, I like to go on trails. I haven't shown in a while, but it's my goal to go back to showing. But things happen. There are animals out on the trail, there are people, there are quads, there are motorbikes, like shit happens. And I want my horse to be in a position mentally to be able to check in with me and trust my judgment. Like, yes, I know this is scary, but can you trust me in this moment to go past it this way? And then the horse does feel this fear. Oh my gosh, I don't feel comfortable. But the 18 million times before this, she always led me to a good outcome. So I'm just going to trust her in this. And then we get to a good outcome. The horse is able to release and then also trust me more. And I help the horse regulate emotions in this stressful situation.
Is there a visible or a prominent response? Because you've laid out this process, and I know what it looks like for humans. But for horses, like, so, you've gone past the danger, you've helped them through, they've trusted you. Does the horse do anything that would indicate, like, or what do they do that indicates to you that they're like, that they have breathe a sigh of relief?
They
Is
might
there
do
anything?
that, exactly. You might hear this sigh. Depending on how big the release is and how awful it was, the stress, I mean. I really try not to put my horses in such a situation where they would feel that kind of stress. I don't wanna push them past that point. Not to get too technical, but there's this thing called fear threshold. So I want to sometimes touch it, but I don't necessarily want to go past it. But if a horse does go past it, then when they come down, they might do things such as rolling, laying down, yawning, maybe cocking their leg to the side, licking and chewing, lots of deep breaths, and oh, I had a session the other day with a client, and my big horse, Roxy, the big chunky monkey Shire horse, she never lays down. Like, it's hard for her to lay down and get up. And we did some inner child work. They released this, and it was absolutely epic because as he like released it and then Roxy, she did her moan. She's like, and then she goes down and she just like Titanic flop on the side and she starts rolling. She never does that. And it was like she felt so much tension as we were doing this, so much so that her release was that big.
Wow. Let me ask you this. So if someone has never ventured towards horses and wants to begin to get connected, what could be a first Google or a first step for someone to go, maybe I thought of riding or getting around these animals to start learning from them and to start mirroring. What should I Google? What should I look for?
Mm, horse assisted learning or horse assisted coaching. Because if you go to a regular riding stable, I used to ride classically. I use some of those techniques, but they're not going to be talking about horse emotions. What's going on in your body? Where do you feel that? How do you understand? Like, they're not going to do that. They're just going to be like, use the whip, go forward, show them who's boss. Like, that's a totally different thing. So someone who's trauma informed, maybe even finding some equine behaviorist to start understanding horse behavior and then putting two and two together. But equine assisted learning or equine assisted coaching is what I do. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. You don't have to have any experience with horses. And I honestly believe that anyone who's interested in riding horses should start this way. Start on the ground first, because too many times I see these classical trainers, they just put someone on a horse And these people are nervous. The horse is big. They don't know what to do. What are these? Like, what do I do? And they're so scared because they don't know what the horse is feeling. When you're confident, oh, I see my horse is so relaxed. Like you feel relaxed because you're confident. You know what's going on in their head and you know what behavior will come next for them. But if you have no idea, like, is the horse angry? Is it going to kick me? Is it gonna? And then all of these thoughts just start running in your head, your anxiety and your cortisol and your adrenaline. And then the horse feels that. So start on the ground before you get in the saddle.
Love that. So we have come to the part of the show where I get to ask you this question from the actor's studio. And I'll just rattle off these questions. And whatever your first answer is, feel free to just speak it.
All right. Sounds good.
And all right. My first question is, Kasia, what is your favorite word?
The first word that came to mind is spaghetti. Spaghetti. I actually use this word quite a lot. When I'm really relaxed, or even in my training sometimes to kind of tell people how to relax, I tell them to imagine themselves, their body, their legs as cooked spaghetti. And like if I'm really relaxed, I'll be like, "Don't bother me. I'm cooked spaghetti." So that I like the way it sounds. I like the visualization that I get. Spaghetti.
Uh, I, on that note, what is your least favorite word?
Obviously, I don't know why that word, because it seems like a silly word, but I think obvi. Why? Let's analyze that. Obviously.
Don't have to. Nope, you don't have to. Nope, obviously. Got
Obviously.
it.
Okay.
Because it's obvious.
It's obvious. Well,
Um,
yeah, yeah, I love it.
yeah. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Creatively, it's so random, but usually some color. I see some color in an advertisement, in the sky, how the light shines off my cat's eyes when then I was just, wow, and it inspires me to paint something. Emotionally, just connection, some kind of connection.
Same, same. What turns you off?
In emotionally, spiritually, creatively.
Generally, yeah, in general.
When people say they're going to do something and they don't do it, that's like my biggest pet peeve. Ooh, I feel my face getting hot because I can't stand it. Like you're lying
my
to another person, you're lying to yourself.
my partner that's what turns her off too. Um, you can say it. What is your favorite curse word? What sound or noise do you love?
That's how I call my baby stallion.
What sound or noise do you hate? What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Speaking on stage.
What profession would you not like to do?
Doctor.
Last question. If heaven exists and you believe in such a thing, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Hmm. Thank you.
The last time I asked that question, that's the same answer that
Really?
individual. Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. Wow. I, ladies and gentlemen, Kasia Bukowska. Kasia, where can we find you? If folks want to connect, see your art, connect with you, where are you?
I have social media, mainly Instagram. So I do have two separate accounts so that I try to keep it, one more horse training, therapy, coaching, and the other one more artwork, but sometimes I integrate. So my horse training on Instagram, where I'm there 18 times a day, would be equestrian Kasia Bukowska. And my art one would be Kasia _ Bukowska _ art. I also have two different websites, one for my artwork, which is kasiabukowska.com, and my equestrian one would be hearthorseexperience.com, because I believe you can experience your heart horse and any horse you meet.
Beautiful. Thank you for those. We'll make sure they make their way into the summary and show notes. Kasia, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.